This is one of my favorite food plots on my property. It's got everything you'd really want in a food plot. I mean, it's only about a quarter of an acre. It's very secluded. It's got very thick bedding cover very close by. I can get to a tree stand right on the edge of this without being noticed. Very low impact. As a matter of fact, you probably can't even see my tree stand because it is tucked back in the shadows of that white pine tree over there. But I've kind of let this plot go. And it's got a lot of weeds in it. It's got a lot of beautiful clover, but there's lots of warm, cool season grasses and broadleaves. You even see a little bit of bird's foot trefoil in here. So what I need to do with this, like I said, I've let it go for a couple of years because I try to use as little glyphosate as I possibly can. But every once in a while, I reach a point where I need to do something about the weeds. So there's a couple approaches you could take. And what I'm recommending is, or what I like to do is use glyphosate, as I said. Now, the cool thing is that one of the things I love about clover is that you have to spray it 2 or 3 times with glyphosate to kill it. It's very glyphosate resistant. And so what I actually do, now you can get herbicides that are specific to grasses. There's something called clethodim that you can spray in clover. It won't harm the clover, but it'll kill the warm season grass, or the cool season grasses, any grasses for that matter. But I like to keep things simple. So what I do instead is I just, when it's time, when I think that there's about maybe 50% of a plot is weeds versus clover, I will just hit this with Gly, and it'll set that clover back. It'll hurt it for about 6 weeks. But I do it this time of year. We just got into August. We should be getting some more rain. We're past kind of the critical time in summer where sometimes we can have really dry spells in July, and it would be a little bit more of a challenge for this clover to recover from a Gly application. But now we're getting closer to hunting season, and I'm not as worried that if I hit this clover right now with Gly, it's going to recover. It's going to take about 6 weeks, but it'll be back and it'll be beautiful again by October 1st when the archery season starts. The other thing is I'm going to overseed more clover into it. So if I happen to have damaged or, killed some of the clover, I'm going to overseed it right when, and I'm also going to put some radish in here. And then I'm going to hit it with, as usual, with rye. So it'll set back that clover and it'll allow that rye to get a little better foothold. So on the years when I actually spray for weeds, I find that the rye actually ends up being more dominant in the plot than other years where the clover tends to be more dominant because I get a little better rye germination on those years where I spray. So that's the plan for this. And that's what I do. I try to only spray a plot about every other year. As I already mentioned, I've learned to live with weeds. To me, this is beautiful, even though it's not picture book. And the other point I wanted to make is that if this plot was perfectly weed free, I don't think that it would actually improve my hunting. I honestly don't know that I would attract more deer than the way it is right now. This feeds a lot of deer, this clover and this rye combination. So just want to show you, maybe now you can see my ladder stand in there, but it's a great spot that's got, I got about a 30-yard shot to the other side. And then this works as kind of a little staging area because this kind of filters into a bigger food plot on the other side of all that brush, about a 1-acre plot over there. So yeah, this is a beauty, and it's about the time of year that I need to spray it And then in a few weeks, I'll be watching the weather forecast and looking for my opportunity to put my fall mix in here to overseed more clover, radish, and hit it with more annual rye. One of the ways that we can reduce the use of chemical herbicides is by just spot spraying sometimes, rather than blanketing an entire field and spraying areas that really don't need to be. And a lot of times when you have grasses that are invading your clover plots, they come in clumps like this. You can see this big clump of Timothy. And so I like to just get the backpack sprayer out and go around the field and spot spray it. Now, one thing I want to tell you, I'm experimenting this morning with a new dye so that I can tell where I've already sprayed. So far, I'm not impressed with the stuff. It's an absolute mess to get it in your tank. There's blue everywhere, and it does seem to work. So I can tell where I've already sprayed on this Timothy. So from that standpoint, maybe it's not a bad idea. I just hate the mess that it creates. Anyway, just thought you guys liked that tip. Hey, just wanted to take a couple minutes and show you guys what this area looks like where I sprayed back in June. So this is kind of old field habitat that has a lot of goldenrod. But so I sprayed this about the first week in June, and it is now the first week in August. So it's been about 2 months. So as you can see, most of this stuff is good and dead, but there's some other green stuff that's starting to come up through it. And so that's why the first year that I plant a food plot, I recommend at least 2 sprayings. I think you can get away with 2. I used to do 3, but 3 might be overkill. And I like to refrain from using herbicides as much as possible. So, but as you can see, there's some green coming up through here. So any time now, I could really come through and shoot it one more time with Glide. And then this is going to be a really nice clean slate for top sowing a fall mix of seeds. And I should have plenty of deer food here come October. Over here is what this would look like if I hadn't sprayed it back in June. As you can see, it's Timothy and goldenrod, and it's very tall. The Timothy in here is about 4 feet tall, and so that's what this area over here would have looked like had it not been sprayed.